Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare. You know, 400 is a real lot of data.
If you're getting two, that's every time you
Yeah.
TN is 100, and then telecom is 120, it's already a terabyte.
Yeah,
You probably get that 1.2 terabytes.
we'd have to really do some serious use of that machine, yeah. Okay, so we're basically ready. Devotees, so here we go on our, is it 57th? I think it's 57th evening. 57th. Yeah. Evening of Bhakti Vaibhava. Bhakti Vaibhava seminar. First of all, let's chant some prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestha Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha. Paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. Is it 57th?
60 today.
60.
Yesterday was 59.
Oh, 60th. It's a historic occasion. Oh, yes. And it's verse 38, is it?
Yeah, correct.
You sure, yeah?
Yes, verse 38 is the
No, it's not.
No?
It's 14th chapter, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 14th chapter.
Oh, gosh. No, it's not. It's not 38. It's the one with quite a long purport.
I think it's 35 to 36.
30.
I think we did that.
No,
37.
it's 37
Yeah.
has the longer purport.
38 also has a long purport.
But this one, it's all about Satyabhama.
Yeah.
And we definitely didn't do
No,
it.
it.
37.
So it's 37. Okay. So here we go, devotees. It's verse 37, first canto, chapter 14, verse 37. Okay. Simply by administering comforts at the lotus feet of the Lord, which is the most important of all services, the queens at Dwaraka, headed by Satyabhama, induced the Lord to conquer the demigods. Thus the queens enjoy things which are prerogatives of the wives of the controller of thunderbolts. Right. So yeah. So here there's a detail, the purport is quite extensive, and it's quite a detailed description of Satyabhama. She visited the palace of Narakasura with Krishna. Just a second now, what have I done here? Yeah. Okay, anyway, she visited the palace of Narakasura accompanied with Lord Krishna. And of course, Prabhupada doesn't explain there. What was she doing there when Krishna's killing Narakasura? But what happened was, Satyabhama is Radharani in Vrindavan Leela. And Bhumi, Mother Earth, is expanded from Radharani. So, and Narakasura was the son of Bhumi and Krishna. So Krishna went to kill Narakasura, but he felt it only right that he asked permission from the mother first. So he took Satyabhama, although she's not exactly the mother, but she is, connected in the terms of expansion with Bhumi. So Krishna, before he killed Narakasura, he turned to Satyabhama and asked permission. And she gave permission. All right, you can kill him. And then Krishna did. And then Krishna took her to visit the palace of Narakasura. I mean, Narakasura was extremely heavily anti-Krishna. So it's not that they went there when Narakasura was living, like they went as guests, not at all. But after killing Narakasura, then Lord Krishna took Satyabhama there and they looked around the palace. Then they went to Indraloka and met Sachi, who is the main wife of Lord Indra. And Sachi introduced her to Aditi, who is the mother of the demigods. And Aditi gave her a blessing that she would have permanent youth while Krishna was on earth. This is all in the purport here. It's like all this biographical information about Satyabhama. So then Aditi showed Satyabhama around the heavenly planets, and Satyabhama saw the Parijata tree. And Parijata is really very extraordinary. Actually, we have one at our temple in Durban, Radharadhanath temple. We have a Parijata tree. Yeah, they had one previously at Krishna Balaram temple, and it just produces showers of little flowers every day during the season, really a lot. Fragrant little flowers, parijata. So Satyabhama saw it, and she felt she wanted to have because there was only one at the time, parijata tree in Dwaraka. So, yeah. So anyway, Prabhupada goes on in the next paragraph to talk about that. So at this stage, all we know is she wanted to have the parijata tree in her palace, because she had her own palace in Dwaraka. Very opulent palace, which was ventilated in such ways that it was bedecked with jewels, which kept the palace, the inside of the palace, cool, as if it was air-conditioned. Yeah. So, one time, when she was with Krishna, she met Draupadi, and she knew that Draupadi had 5 husbands, but still she kept all 5 of them pleased all the time by her service. So Satyabhama asked her questions, how to keep your husband happy through service. Yeah, so Draupadi was very expert. And she, of course, she was the daughter of Satyajit. She was the daughter of Satyajit, who, we weren't going to get into talking about Satyajit. He was a real character. So, and Prabhupada says that after the departure of Lord Krishna, when Arjuna visited Dwaraka, all the queens, including Satyabhama and Rukmini, lamented for the Lord with great feeling. And at the last stage of her life, she left for the forest to undergo severe penance. Then the second paragraph is still about Satyabhama, and it talks now about the incident with the parijata tree. So she really asked Krishna repeatedly, can you take the tree? Please take the tree for me. Take the tree, will you? So in the end, Krishna took the tree, and Lord Indra tried to stop him, but Indra couldn't stop him. Indra couldn't stop him. And the thing is that in general, Prabhupada makes the point, Krishna's wives were so faithful to him that he felt obliged to do whatever they wanted. Therefore, he took that parijata tree, even though he had to sort of fight with Lord Indra, but he took it because he felt obliged to Satyabhama, like with all his wives. And not just because she's sort of regularly asked him, but because she was so faithful. Therefore, he felt obliged and he fulfilled her desire. So, because of that, Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, in other words, since the Lord is the proprietor of everything within his creation, it is not very astonishing for the queens of Dwaraka to have any rare thing from any part of the universe, because they were so faithful to Krishna, and Krishna felt so obliged by their service. he would do whatever they wanted. Okay, then verse 38. Translation: the great heroes of the Yadu dynasty, being protected by the arms of Lord Sri Krishna, always remain fearless in every respect, and therefore their feet trample over the Sudharma assembly house, which the best demigods deserved, but which was taken away from them. Yeah. So, anyway, that's another interesting story. Prabhupada explains, those who are direct servants of the Lord are protected by him, and they enjoy all the best facilities. And Krishna, there's an interesting way of putting it. Krishna is equal to everyone, but he's more equal to his devotees. Yes, right. Because of affection. Yes. And the Yadus decided they wanted the Sudharma assembly hall. It was in the heavenly planets. But the Yadus brought it by force, and the demigods, Lord Indra, couldn't stop them. They brought it and they placed it in Dwaraka. So yeah, otherwise such an assembly house that's so incredibly grand and magnificent, it's not possible to construct it on this planet. Prabhupada says, the human beings on earth are unable to construct it, however far a particular state may be materially advanced. So the Yadus brought it forcibly. So the devotees, anyway, Prabhupada goes on to say that the devotees, they were able to, of Dwaraka, they were able to use such force because they were certain of the good wishes and protection of Lord Krishna. So, in other words, Krishna is provided with the best things, even in the universe, by his devotees. Yeah. Right. So, then second paragraph, Prabhupada gets into a more sort of general philosophical point. The conditioned souls are fearful, but the liberated souls are never fearful, just like a child dependent on the father. You know, Prabhupada, well, it's in the Bhagavatam actually. Anath and Sanath. Have you heard of that? Anath means without a master or protector, and Sanath means with a master or with a protector. And Prabhupada gives the example of dogs. You know, in the past, well, even today, sometimes you see these street dogs, and I mean, when we were there this time, my God, some of the sights I saw, maybe you saw. The one dog had its head caved in, and you could see inside. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And the dog was still walking around. That's anath, no master, no protector. But then you see the dog who has a master, and the dog, first of all, the dog is not skinny like a street dog, And the dog is sort of, proud and, I'm cool, sort of, because he's Sanath. He has his master, his protector. Yeah. So like that, Prabhupada says that the liberated soul, or it means the devotee, just like a small child, is under the protection of the good father, is never fearful, because always protected. So the good son, the good children of the Lord, they're under his protection and they're never fearful. Yeah. And Prabhupada makes the point that fearfulness in general, fearfulness is a type of illusion for the jivas who have forgotten the Lord. In fact, there's a verse. What is it now? Bhayam dvitiya binaveshita syat. Bhayam dvitiya. Fear is possessed by someone, dvitiya binaveshita, someone who's taken shelter of dvitiya, a second person. The first person is Krishna, but someone who's taken shelter of someone other than Krishna, a second person, then bhayam, they're fearful. They're always fearful. Yeah. So fearfulness is really a type of illusion for the living beings who have forgotten the Lord. And Prabhupada makes the point that, as stated in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 20, that we're eternal. So what is there to be afraid of? Even if we die, or when we die, our bodies die, we're eternal. We'll just go on and carry on basically from where we left off. So what's the cause of fearfulness? And then Prabhupada talks about someone who's having a dream, and in the dream they see a tiger chasing them, and they become fearful. But then they wake up and they realize there's no tiger. There's nothing to be afraid of. Yeah. Yes. The tiger is simply a myth. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, thus the members of the Yadu dynasty were fully awake in their service to the Lord, and therefore there was no tiger for them to be afraid of at any time. Even if there were a real tiger, the Lord was there to protect them. Yeah. Okay, so verse 39. And remember, this is Maharaj Yudhisthira speaking, being fearful that the Lord has left this world. So 39. My brother Arjuna, please tell me whether your health is all right. You appear to have lost your bodily luster. Is this due to others disrespecting and neglecting you because of your long stay at Dwaraka? Prabhupada makes the point that Yudhisthira's already basically concluded that as long as Krishna was there in Dwaraka, there was nothing inauspicious could happen in Dwaraka. So how could Arjuna have lost his bodily luster, like he's in a state of shock or depression or some state of distress or something like that? And one other interesting point Prabhupada doesn't mention, but the verse mentions, have you lost your luster because others have disrespected and neglected of you because of your long stay? One thing we shouldn't do is overstay in someone's house. Yeah. And there's a saying, if you stay as a guest in someone's house, the first day they treat you as a king. The second day they treat you, there's a specific terminology, but they treat you okay. It's all right. But the third day, they treat you like an uninvited old uncle. Means just, yeah. So we have to be careful. That's why sannyasis generally don't stay more than 3 days, as guests at least. Yeah. Otherwise, familiarity breeds contempt. And I remember when we were collecting for building Radharadhanath, it was 85. Yeah, but getting towards the end of the collecting, just before the opening, and I had 2 wisdom teeth out at one time. And I came back. We were stationed in Port Shepstone. We were selling paintings, shop to shop and so on, in Port Shepstone. But I came back to Durban to get those teeth removed. So I got them removed. And then I came to the temple and I was thinking maybe of staying over there because, had these teeth removed and it's a bit of a thing. So there we were, came to the temple. And Giriraj Maharaj was there. And Giriraj Maharaj said, "Oh, you're here." He expected us to be out raising funds. And he said, "Well, I don't want to hold you back from your service." So we thought, oh, okay, it's a hint. And we went back to Port Shepstone that evening. Okay, verse 40. Has someone addressed you with unfriendly words or threatened you? Could you not give charity to one who asked? Or could you not keep your promise to someone? That's interesting, isn't it? For a Kshatriya. Yeah. So anyway, purport. Prabhupada says a Kshatriya or a rich person is sometimes asked for donations. And then, as Prabhupada says, it's the duty of a wealthy person to give in charity, but considering who is the person and what is the person. And, like this, I don't give people in the streets like here or in India, I don't give them money because so many of them will just use it for nonsense. But if we have some prasadam, we offer them prasadam. They normally come and say, "Oh, I'm hungry," or something like that. So we offer them prasadam, and then if they refuse and say, "Oh, no, can you give me money?" then they're not hungry. They want something, some cigarettes or liquor or something. And so you don't need to give money to people who've got money. Like, not so much now, but before, in front of Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, you get all these beggars, and they would ask the devotees for money sometimes. And what you would do, a way to sort of, deal with them, would be to say, I haven't got anything small. Can you change 1,000 rupee note for me? And if they say, sure, no problem, then you say, well, then you don't need any money from me. Yes. All right, anyway. So then Prabhupada goes on that if a Kshatriya or rich person fails to give some charity to a worthy recipient, then he must be very sorry. He should feel very sorry. Similarly, if one has, given a promise to give in charity or just given a promise to do something, and one fails, that's not good at all. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, these discrepancies are sometimes causes of despondency, and thus failing, a person becomes subjected to criticism, which might also be the cause of Arjuna's plight. Right, okay. Verse 41. You are always the protector of the deserving living beings, such as Brahmins, children, cows, women, and the diseased. Could you not give them protection when they approached you for shelter? Right. So, of course, Yudhisthira is trying to figure out why Arjuna is despondent. And of course, he's afraid that it's because Krishna's left this world, and Arjuna knows because he was there. But he's hoping it's something else, which might make Arjuna distressed, but not like if Krishna left this world. Yeah, so he's thinking of these different possibilities. So the Brahmins, particularly the Brahmins, deserve protection, Prabhupada explains, because they're always doing things and researching how to do things for the benefit of the people, or just, giving knowledge for the benefit of the people. So therefore they deserve the protection of the king. Yes. And similarly, Prabhupada says the children of the state, cows, diseased people, women, old men, they particularly need protection by the state or the king, the Kshatriya king. And if they don't get it, then Prabhupada says, it is certainly shameful for the Kshatriya or the state. If such things had actually happened to Arjuna, Maharaj Yudhisthira was anxious to know about these discrepancies. All right, verse 42. Verse 42. Have you contacted a woman of impeachable character? I think it's unimpeachable character. I think it should be. Impeachable or impeccable. Oh, let me just see. Where are we?
It says impeachable.
Impeachable. Yeah, that's really impeachable. Maybe, I mean, I don't know every word. Yeah, impeachable means deserving or causing impeachment. So it's bad. In other words, it should be impeccable. I'm completely sure. It should be impeccable character. Yeah.
In another verse in Bhagavatam, Agamyam is translated as unsuitable.
This same,
The synonyms of the verse.
oh, is it
Agamyam means
acceptable?
Aganyam, impeachable. The last word of the first line
Right,
means translated as impeachable.
because it's agamyam,
It's
but gamyam is acceptable.
acceptable.
Oh, I see. Okay. Have you contacted a woman of impeachable character, of bad character? Or have you not properly treated a deserving woman? Okay, yeah, right. And or have you been defeated on the way by someone who's inferior or equal to you? So in the purport, Prabhupada talks about contact between Brahmins and Kshatriyas with women from lower castes or lower classes. But a man from a lower class couldn't contact a woman of the higher class. Basically means marry, really. Yeah, Prabhupada talks about it quite a bit here. So therefore a Kshatriya could not contact a woman of the Brahmin caste. The wife of a Brahmin is one of the 7 mothers. 7 mothers are one's own mother, the wife of the spiritual master, the wife of a Brahmin, the wife of the king, the cow, the nurse, and the earth. So contact of a Brahmin with a Kshatriya woman is uttama, means very good. But contact of a Kshatriya with a Brahmin woman is adharma, and is condemned. Yeah, okay. Uttama is adharma. Okay. Maybe it should be adharma, but one of the two. So, but otherwise, I mean, it's an interesting point. Otherwise, a woman approaching for contact means for marriage, basically, should never be refused. But one must use one's discretion in these terms, which we just mentioned, of, the relative positions according to Varna. According to Varna. So anyway, then, in the purport here, Srila Prabhupada gets into practical examples. Bhima was approached by Hidimbi, who was from, I think, a Rakshasa family. It means lower than Sudra. Really not good. But he was ordered by Kunti to accept her. So he accepted her. Yayati refused to marry the daughter of Shukracharya because Yayati was a Kshatriya, Shukracharya was a Brahmin, so he refused to marry his Shukracharya's daughter. Vyas, a Brahmin, was called to beget from 2 wives of Pandu. Yeah, who was it? One closed her eyes at the time of conception, so then Dhritarashtra was born blind, and the other one, they're Kshatriyas, the other one seeing Vyas looking like, he was a pretty extraordinary looking person. She became so frightened, she turned white, and therefore Pandu was born white. But then Vyas conceived a child with the maidservant, who's a Sudra, and Vidura was born. But because he's the son of the maidservant, even though Vyas is his father, Vidura was always seen to be lower within the sort of the social ranks in the palace. Right. Then Satyavati, Parashara, it's a bit of a long story. But Parashara begot Vyasadeva in the womb of Satyavati, who was the member of a family of fishermen, means basically lower than Sudra also, or at best Sudra. Right, so different examples. There's so many examples of contacts with women, but in all cases the contacts are not abominable, nor were the results of such contacts bad. So that contact has to be done, Prabhupada says, under regulative principles, basically of marriage, and in terms of varna. Otherwise, you know what Krishna says? Jayate or Jayati Varna Sankara. Victory to the Varna Sankara. And that's what has happened. Now the Varna Sankara in this Kali Yuga, they're ruling everything, basically. And even the Kshatriyas are Sudras. Okay, so Prabhupada goes on. It's abominable for a Kshatriya to be defeated by someone who's inferior in strength or even equal. If you're a Kshatriya and if you're going to be defeated, at least be defeated by someone superior. Yeah. Arjuna, Prabhupada gives the example, Arjuna was defeated by Bhishma, who was superior. But Krishna saved Arjuna. Yeah. So Arjuna could have felt insulted, just like Kaikeyi with Dasarath. You know that story? Dasarath was fighting in a battle and he was in the process of losing and he was knocked unconscious. And Kaikeyi came and rescued him and took him off the battlefield until he regained consciousness. But when he regained consciousness, he was very angry. Why did you take me off the battlefield? Like I'm a coward. You should have just let me be killed. But anyway, then he said, okay, so you saved my life. What would you like? I'll give you anything. And she said, well, not right now, but later on when it's suitable for me, I'll ask you for something. You know that story, right? She's the mother of Bharat. Kaikeyi. So when Dasarath was about to crown Ram as the Yuvaraj, it's called, means the crown prince, he's going to become the king. The day before, Kaikeyi, whose mind had been polluted by, what was her name? Do you remember her name, the hunchback? Manthara. I think it was Manthara. Manthara polluted the mind of Kaikeyi. So then Kaikeyi, the day before Ram was to be crowned Yuvaraj, she came and said to Dasarath that you remember that benediction. You said you'd give me anything, whatever I want. Well, I want my son Bharat to become the king. You know that story. You must know that story. Yeah. So, in this case, Krishna saved Arjuna, but it wasn't an insult for Arjuna because Bhishma was superior. Otherwise, to rescue a Kshatriya when they're fighting, if they're losing, it's a big insult. Right. Yeah. But Karuna, Prabhupada goes on, Karuna was equal to Arjuna. And when Arjuna was in a crisis, when fighting Karuna, then Krishna told him to kill him by crooked means. You know, the wheel of his chariot was stuck in a hole or something. And Krishna said, kill him now. He had his back to Arjuna. So he did. So therefore Arjuna wasn't so happy about that. So this is how Kshatriyas work. Such are the engagements of the Kshatriyas. And Maharaj Yudhisthira inquired from his brother whether anything undesirable happened on the way home from Dwaraka. 43, which I think, oh no, it's not the last verse, okay. 43, have you not taken care of old men and boys who deserve to dine with you? Have you left them and taken your meals alone? Have you committed some unpardonable mistake which is considered to be abominable? So yeah, Prabhupada explains, it's the duty of householders to first of all feed the children, then the old people, the Brahmins and the invalids. And then he should go outside before eating and call for are there any hungry people out here? And feed them. And Prabhupada said his father did that every single day. Every single day. Yeah. Yes. So, Prabhupada says here, he's required to call for such a hungry man 3 times. Yeah. So the neglect of this by a householder, especially in the matter of old men and children, is unpardonable. Really. It's amazing. So now, Maharaj Yudhisthira is coming to the point. Or is it that you're feeling empty for all time because you might have lost your most intimate friend, Lord Krishna? Oh, my brother Arjuna, I can think of no other reason for your becoming so dejected. Right. And this, I think, is, the last verse of the chapter. So, Prabhupada makes the point, as we've already said a few times, Yudhisthira was already thinking like this. Because Arjuna, he'd never do these things. Just never. So he'd never be like distressed. And what could distress him? Only separation from Krishna. Yeah, so Yudhisthira, well, Prabhupada says he'd already conjectured, he'd already, basically thought and assumed that was what had happened. So now he discloses that to Arjuna, because Arjuna's distress would not have been possible, to that degree otherwise. And Yudhisthira was doubtful, but he felt obliged to ask because of what Narada had said. In the previous chapter, it's verse 50 or something. Verse 50, it looks like. Narada says, the Lord has already performed his duties to help the demigods, and he's awaiting the rest. You Pandavas may wait as long as the Lord is here on earth. Right. So, devotees, that's the end of the 14th chapter. And we are devotees. We've still got 10 minutes. So we're going to go on and start the 15th chapter. Yes, 15th chapter, which is titled, The Pandavas Retire Timely. And, oh boy, there's 7 sections here. Wow. Let me just run through them first. From verse 1 to verse 21, that's the first section, big section. Arjuna reveals that Lord Krishna has departed. Verse 1 to verse 21, Arjuna reveals that Lord Krishna has departed. Second section, verse 22 to verse 27, Arjuna describes the departure of the Yadu dynasty. So it's not only Krishna, it's the whole Yadu dynasty, or at least all the men, or the great majority. That's verse 22 to verse 27. Arjuna describes the departure of the Yadu dynasty. Then third section, verse 28 to verse 33. Arjuna recovers himself and others react to the news. Then fourth section, verse 34 to 36, facts surrounding the Lord's departure. 34, 35, and 36. Facts surrounding the Lord's departure. Then the fifth section, verse 37 to verse 44, Yudhisthira retires. Yudhisthira retires. In other words, well, he retires and leaves home. Then 45 to 50, the sixth section, the other Pandavas retire. And the seventh section, which is just one verse, verse 51, Sutta Goswami's blessing for those who hear this narration. So, okay, devotees, we got 5 or 6 minutes or thereabouts. let's just make a start. So this first section is 21 verses. It's quite long. I think we'll just read through the whole thing. I mean, verses and purports now. And with the other sections, which all of them are much shorter, then we'll do our usual practice of, first of all, reading the verses, then the verses and the purports. So, okay. Chapter 15, verse 1. Section Arjuna reveals that Lord Krishna has departed. So verse 1. Sutta Goswami said, Arjuna, the celebrated friend of Lord Krishna, was grief-stricken because of his strong feeling of separation from Krishna, over and above all Maharaj Yudhisthira's speculative inquiries. So Arjuna, Prabhupada makes the point, he was just too emotionally overwhelmed, and so he became incapable of speaking. It's pretty drastic. Yeah. But that's what happened. And verse 2. Due to grief, Arjuna's mouth and lotus-like heart had dried up. Therefore his body lost all luster. Now, remembering the Supreme Lord, he could hardly utter a word in reply. So there's no purport. Let's just read verse 3. With great difficulty, he checked the tears of grief that smeared his eyes. He was very distressed because Lord Krishna was out of his sight, and he increasingly felt affection for him. So there's no purport for this verse also. So let's read verse 4, which does have it has a purport. So verse 4, remembering Lord Krishna and his well-wishes, benefactions, intimate familial relations, and his chariot driving, Arjuna, overwhelmed and breathing very heavily, began to speak. So Prabhupada sort of looks into the subject of how it is that Arjuna felt so totally distressed. And it's because Lord Krishna is perfect in all his relationships with his pure devotees. And Arjuna is typical of the pure devotees. And therefore, and he's in a friendly rasa, and therefore Krishna's dealings with Arjuna are displays, Prabhupada says, of friendship of the highest perfect order. Yeah. So, as the verse says, Krishna was not only a well-wisher of Arjuna, but actually a benefactor. It means he didn't just say, go well, I hope it goes well, that's a well-wisher. But he actually helped him. He did things. So he's a benefactor. And on top of that, the Lord arranged his marriage to Subhadra, who's Krishna's sister. Arjuna wanted to marry her. So he asked Krishna and Balaram. Balaram was opposed, but Krishna said, don't worry about him, you can go ahead. So it was by Krishna's arrangement that Arjuna was able to marry Subhadra because, she is a very special person. She's the presiding deity of the internal potency. Yeah, she's not just some very qualified devotee. She's just on another level altogether. So therefore Krishna did all sorts of things, basically. He drove the chariot for Arjuna. And now Arjuna's remembering all these things the Lord's done. And Arjuna's feeling devastated. Then, well, let's see. I think we'll finish here. So we'll start tomorrow with verse 5. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.